I am thrilled to talk about Social Security, and I realize it's not for most people the sexiest thing to talk about, but I'm pretty passionate about it. And I'm hoping what you learn today sends that message clearly that here at Social Security Solutions, we are very passionate about Social Security. We are champions of education around Social Security, and I'm excited to talk about Social Security from a woman's perspective. So you're going to walk away from today not with everything you need to know in order to claim benefits, but you are going to walk away from this webinar having learned a little bit of information that will cause you to want to ask more questions. I am excited to talk about our company and what we have done around Social Security, but more importantly, I want to arm you with information about some of the benefits you may not be aware of, and I want to talk to you about why it matters so much to be very forthright in planning a strategy around claiming Social Security. I think our slides today will show you that your decisions matter, that it's easy to make a wrong decision that can cost you and your family thousands, tens of thousands, and sometimes $100,000 or more in benefits that you leave on the table because you're not aware of your options. So hang with us as we talk about Social Security this afternoon, and let me tell you just a little bit about our company. So Social Security Solutions was founded in 2010. We came together in this industry knowing more about Social Security than anybody else. We are the experts. We are the most published on Social Security claiming strategies. Our founders, William Meyer and Dr. William Rickenstein, have written dozens of articles that have been published in very esteemed journals, the Journal of Financial Planning, the Financial Analyst Journal, and many, many more. And I don't say that as a way of bragging. I say that as a way of lending credibility to who we are and what we've done in the industry. We are the most quoted. You can definitely search online for media inserts about us. We are sought out by outlets such as the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, and many, many more, and are regularly quoted about Social Security strategies. We are some of the most sought-after speakers on Social Security, and keeping with that theme of the most, we get you the most in benefits. We are the creators of software that take all of the rules I'm going to talk to you about today and package it in such a way that makes it simple for you to have confidence in a Social Security claiming strategy, knowing that you're going to get all of the benefits that you're entitled to get. So I want to start my educational conversation with you, introducing you to a woman named Debbie. And as you read the slide that's on the screen, it is a super simplified transcript, if you will, of my conversation with Debbie. But our firm has been in business, as I said, since 2010, and we've talked to thousands and thousands of people. Debbie was a client that I talked to a few years ago. She and I had a delightful conversation. She had been using our software, and one of the options with our company is for you to have a session with a Social Security expert, and Debbie decided she needed that, and I happened to be the one that spent some time with Debbie. And as we talked on the phone, during her consultation, she was funny, warm, we laughed a lot, and she had said that she was single to me. She was filing as a single person. And as we talked, I said, Debbie, I just can't believe you've never been married. You're such a delightful person. And she said, oh, I was married one time, but I'm divorced. And I said, oh, seriously? Were you married at least 10 years to your husband? And she said, it felt like a lifetime, but I was married 22 years. I said, well, did he make more money than you did? She said, yeah, he made a lot more than I did. I was a stay-at-home mom much of our marriage, and he was a surgeon. And I said, Debbie, we need to have a chat because there's something called a divorced spouse benefit that you may be able to collect, and your little benefit of about $900 a month may be more as a divorced spouse benefit. And she said, that would be really great, but he died a few years ago. And I said, Debbie, I have even better news for you. There's something called a surviving divorced spouse benefit. Now, later in the presentation, I'm going to talk to you about divorced spouse and surviving divorced spouse benefits. But I wanted to introduce you to Debbie as a way of saying the rules matter, particularly as a woman. Debbie called in to us thinking she was going to have to live on about $900 a month in Social Security benefits. After our conversation, Debbie walked away knowing she was going to get about $2,500 a month in benefits. The rules matter, so pay careful attention as we walk through some pretty detailed stuff that you need to know and to be armed with as you think about Social Security. And remember, the rules matter. So let's talk about women for a minute and how women typically fare with Social Security. Women typically, of course, earn less in wages than men. I don't know what the latest figure is, but for many years it was roughly 80 cents on the dollar. We also tend to spend fewer years in the workforce. Many of us leave the workforce to care for children, or we follow a very traditional path and don't work much outside the home, or we may work part-time. And sadly, we're typically in lower level jobs than men, so we're less likely to have a private pension. If we do, it tends to be smaller. In 2013, the average Social Security income for women aged 65 and over was just under $13,000. It was over $16,000 for men. And those figures are based on your years of earnings, and we'll talk about that in just a few moments. So that clearly shows you the disparity between men and women. Often, women don't research the rules around Social Security. They tend to make financial decisions differently from men if they make any of the decisions in their family at all. And divorce and widowhood often mean that women need income early and they claim Social Security very early. And I'm going to talk about the danger in that as we go through the presentation. Women also tend to rely on Social Security more. Women are 56% of beneficiaries aged 62 and over, and 66% of beneficiaries aged 85 and over. Almost half of the women over age 65 rely on their Social Security payment for 90% or more of their income. Women outlive men by about 2.5 years, and that number will continue to grow over the next few decades. And as I sort of alluded to on the last slide, women are more likely to live alone at later ages because of widowhood and divorce, and they're more likely to need the income that Social Security provides. So women tend to get less in benefits, but we rely on it more. And because of that, it's critical that you understand what your options are and you learn about all of the benefits you may be qualified or eligible to receive, and figure out a strategy for getting the most out of Social Security that you can. So the most common questions that we hear from women who call our firm are these. What benefits am I eligible for? And I'll walk through some of the possibilities. How much will I receive? And what's the best time and way for me to claim benefits? Some of the answers to these questions may surprise you a little bit, but our purpose is to give you some education so that you can begin to ask these kinds of questions as well. And the first one I want to answer is, what benefits am I eligible for? I think a lot of us think about Social Security benefits in terms of our own retirement benefit. And that is just one type of Social Security benefit that's available. Your retirement benefit that comes from your working career is the basis or the foundation for several other types of benefits. And I'll walk through those and, excuse me, who they are paid to and how much those benefits might be in just a moment. But based on your household factors, multiple types of benefits can work together to get you more in lifetime cumulative benefits. Now, the Social Security Administration cannot provide you advice. They are prohibited by policy from giving you advice about claiming your benefits. They will not help you use the rules to your advantage. They seldom will help you figure out how these benefits intertwine with each other to maximize what you get from Social Security. So let's talk a minute about each of those types of benefits. And I know that this chart on your screen now is probably an eye chart, but I do want to walk through these, and you'll see in the far left-hand column I have paid to, and I'll talk about each type of benefit and who it's paid to, who's eligible for it, the amount of that benefit, and any special criteria. So let me open it with talking about your retirement benefit. And again, that is your benefit. It's paid to you from your own work record. It's based on your own earnings, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a moment. And there are some special conditions for you to get that retirement benefit. You have to have been in the workforce and worked at least 10 years. It used to be called 40 quarters, which was the same thing as 10 years, and now we talk about it in terms of you have to have worked 10 years. And you have to be at least age 62 to qualify for a benefit. And you remember from my prior slide that the retirement benefit is the foundation for all of these other benefits. So let's talk about the spousal benefit. The spousal benefit is paid to the spouse of an eligible worker. So let's assume for a moment that you are married to the worker and you have not worked any time outside of the home in your entire life, in your entire married life. You are still eligible for a spousal benefit based on your husband's earnings record. And you can get up to 1/2 of his full retirement benefit. And I'll talk about what that means in just a moment. You do have to be at least age 62, and your spouse does have to be collecting his benefits. There was a rule change in Social Security back in 2015, and some of you on the call today will fall into a set of rules that was in effect prior to 2015. Most of you will probably fall into the category of those who were born beyond a date, and it created a change in the rules of Social Security. Again, the rules are so voluminous and complex. Our software can help you put all of this together. But for you to get a spousal benefit, or for most of you to do so, your spouse will have to be collecting benefits, and you have to have been married to that person for at least a year. Now, I talked about Debbie on our first screen. She was a divorced spouse, or we thought she was at first until we found out she was a surviving divorced spouse. But for those of you on the phone who are divorced, you may be eligible for a divorced spouse benefit. It's paid to the ex-spouse of a worker. It's exactly the same amount as a current spouse would receive in spousal benefits. Similar criteria: you have to be at least age 62. You have to have been married to that person for 10 years, and the ex-spouse has to be age 62. Continuing on, there's that surviving divorced spouse that I explained that Debbie got. It is exactly the same amount as a current surviving spouse would receive. The amount of that benefit is based on the deceased worker's final benefit, what that person was eligible to receive at the time of death. You have to be at least age 60 to get it, aged 50 if you are completely disabled, but you can get it as early as age 60. You have to have been married 10 years, just like with the divorce spouse benefit. And again, the ex-spouse has to be age 62. Now, the next benefit I want to talk about briefly is something that so many of our clients aren't aware of, and it's called the Children's and the Child in Care benefit. You know, one of the things our society is seeing so much of right now is babies born to people later in life. A number of those are, of course, older men with a younger spouse, but we're also seeing women who are having babies much later, or families who are adopting children and perhaps grandchildren later in life. And we are seeing a lot of folks who begin retirement having minor children. If you have minor children at the time you file for your Social Security benefits, those minor children can qualify for a children's benefit, and if there is a caregiving spouse, that person can also qualify for a child in care benefit. Each of those in a family can claim up to half of a worker's full retirement benefit. Now, there is a family maximum that this is all subject to. However, as long as a child is, 18 or younger, actually it is graduates from high school or 19, whichever comes first, but I have 18 on the slide because that fits in my space. The child in care benefits also stop when the youngest child is 18. So if you're in a situation where you're going to have minor children at the time you claim your retirement benefits or when your spouse claims your retirement benefits, be sure you don't overlook the children's or the child in care benefit. The last two benefits I want to talk about are the survivor and the widower, and we use those a lot of times interchangeably, but the Social Security Administration actually separates those into two classes of benefits. The survivor benefit is for the surviving spouse or family of a young worker, someone who's not yet retirement age, and that benefit can be up to 3/4 of that worker's full retirement benefit, again, subject to that family maximum. And then the widower benefit is for the surviving spouse of a retired worker or someone who's eligible for retirement. Again, it's based on, just like the surviving divorced spouse, it's based on the deceased worker's final benefit, and you have to have been married 9 months in order to collect a widow or widower's benefit. You don't have to have been living with that person during those 9 months. You just have to have been married to that person. So I know that's a lot of information on a slide to take in, but I just want you to be aware of all of those kinds of benefits, and as we go through the rest of the slides, be thinking about which of these you might be eligible for and think about how the rules may apply in your particular situation. So, how much will my benefit be? My answer is clearly it depends, because your household factors may bring in those classes of benefits that we could weave together in a way that lets you turn certain benefits on or off at various times, and it'll get you more money in benefits. So I typically show a video here, but for technology's sake, I'm just going to talk about this slide for a moment. And a number of you on the call today will be familiar with the Stanford marshmallow experiment. It's been repeated over and over and over through the years. And the point of the Stanford marshmallow experiment was to measure delayed gratification in children. And here's kind of how it went. Children were placed at a table in a room by themselves. Most of the children were, 4 or 5 years old, and a marshmallow was put on a plate in front of them. A woman would come into the room and say, "Here's a marshmallow. You can eat it now, or if you wait until I come back, I will give you 2 marshmallows." Of course, there was a camera running, and the woman would leave the room. I don't know how long she was gone, but several minutes. The kids would fidget and fidget and fidget. Some of them would eat the marshmallow right away. Some of them would pick it up and lick it or take little tiny pinches off of it, not eat the whole thing, but, clearly touch it and taste it. Others of them were able to sit and not touch the marshmallow, and sure enough, if she came back into the room and you had not eaten the marshmallow, you could have two marshmallows. And you may be saying, Robin, what does that have to do with Social Security? Well, it's this. Actually, it's two things. First and foremost, Social Security is like the marshmallow experiment. You can claim it right away, or you can wait and get more. You can get one marshmallow at 62, or you can get two marshmallows later. And the second reason I talk about the marshmallow experiment is almost 70% of Americans claim their Social Security early. They're eating that first marshmallow. So kids and adults fare about the same when it comes to delayed gratification. So as we go through the slides, I want you to start thinking about your reward, your second marshmallow, if you wait to claim your benefits. And I'm going to show you how big that second marshmallow can be. So how much you're going to get depends on the age you claim, how much you earned in wages throughout your lifetime, whether you're single, married, divorced, or widowed. And again, this gets back to weaving all of those benefits together into a strategy that gets you the most in benefits. How much a spouse or former spouse earned in wages if you are or were married. Whether you're eligible for multiple benefits that can be combined to get you more, and how well you use the rules to maximize your benefits. As I said earlier, the rules of Social Security are many. They are complicated, but with software, this is a very simple way to plan and to use those benefits to your advantage. So let's start with talking about your personal retirement benefit. It's based on your highest 35 years of earnings. Now, if you haven't worked 35 years, those empty years have zeros averaged in. So if you are currently not working, or you didn't work for a period of your adult life, the best thing you can do is continue working or start working to replace those 0 years. Your earnings over those 35 years are adjusted for inflation, and then they're averaged. Then a formula is applied to determine your monthly benefit amount. It's called your full retirement benefit. And your benefit will be increased in some years by cost of living adjustments. Many of you on the phone will remember when you used to get your Social Security statement or sometime around your birthday every year. Well, the Social Security Administration stopped sending those out several years ago. They've recently begun sending those to folks who are turning 60, and you should get them every year after your 60th birthday. But if you haven't gotten one, you can go to www.ssa.gov/mystatement and register for an online account, download and print your Social Security statement. Now, it's important for you to have that as you start your Social Security planning because it contains information about your full retirement benefit. I've referred to that phrase a couple of times during our presentation already. Your full retirement benefit is the basis of all the calculations for the benefits that you're going to get in retirement. And I'll warn you, it doesn't say on your statement, here's your full retirement benefit. What it does say is if you wait to start benefits at your full retirement age, you will receive about, and that amount is your full retirement benefit. And we'll talk a lot about full retirement benefits as we continue through the presentation. Now, when you start your benefits matters substantially. I've already told you that if you start at 62, you get one marshmallow. And if you wait to age 70, it may be even 3 marshmallows, and I'll show you how that works in just a moment. But your full retirement age varies based on your year of birth. If you were born between 1943 and 1954, your full retirement age is 66. If you were born after 1954, your full retirement age increases a couple of months for each year. And if you were born in 1960 or after, your full retirement age is 67. It's important to know your full retirement age because if you file for benefits before that full retirement age, your benefit is reduced. And if you file after your full retirement age, your benefit is increased. So take a look at the chart that's on your screen. If you have a full retirement benefit of $2,000 and your full retirement age is 66, and if you claim your benefit at 66, you can see that you'll get that $2,000 every month. If you claim at 62, you'll only get $1,500. The reduction in that benefit from starting at 62 instead of 66 is 25%. If you wait until age 70, you'll get an additional 32% if your full retirement age is 66. You'll get $2,640. That's like 3 marshmallows. If your full retirement age is 67, you can see that at 67 you'll get that $2,000 a month. If you start at 62, it's only $1,400 a month. So the starting age you choose is critical for determining how much your benefits are going to be. So those calculations were for your own retirement benefit. For spousal benefits and for divorced spouse benefits, you can get up to half of the worker's full retirement benefit. Now, it never grows more than half. Spousal benefits and divorced spouse benefits don't get the benefit of those credits that you earn for waiting to claim. However, they are reduced if you claim early, and you'll see that in some of my case studies in just a little bit. The widow and widower benefit and the surviving divorced spouse benefit, they're pretty complicated formulas, but they're generally based on a combination of the worker's full retirement benefit and whether or not the worker was receiving benefits at the time of death. So, as I said, it's a pretty complicated formula, but you can start to think about that survivor and widow benefits being based on whether or not the decedent claimed before they died and what their full retirement benefit was. All of these benefits, as I mentioned a moment ago, are reduced if you claim before your full retirement age. So let's say you have a spousal benefit of $1,000 at your full retirement age. That will be reduced by a substantial amount if you claim at 62. I just mentioned earlier that your own retirement benefit is reduced by 25% if you claim at 62. The spousal benefit is reduced by 30%. So it's reduced even more if you claim early. As I mentioned, none of these receive those delayed retirement credits for waiting past your full retirement age to claim those benefits, but they do benefit from cost of living adjustments. So if you're receiving a spousal benefit off of a husband's earnings record and he gets a cost of living adjustment for his benefit, your spousal benefit also gets a cost of living adjustment. So that's kind of a nice bonus. How and when should I claim my benefits? And, that's with a good claiming strategy. You've heard me talk about a strategy throughout the presentation already. A strategy considers all of the factors that might come into play around your retirement income. You need to think about, of course, your marital status, and much of what we're talking about today is around that. You need to be thinking about that claiming age we just talked about, but it's also important to think about how long do you think you're going to live? How much do you have in savings? Are you going to have a pension? And what is your need for income early in your retirement versus later in your retirement? What is your desired standard of living? Are you going to continue to work for part of your retirement? And I'll talk more about this in a little bit, but the survivor needs should play a huge impact in the claiming decision. At our firm, we can tell husbands who really love their wives and care about her well-being later in life by how they approach their own claim around survivor needs, and I'll show you in just a moment why it matters so much. A claiming strategy is simply using all of the complicated rules of Social Security to your advantage. This is about combining those benefits or postponing certain benefits or turning a class of benefits on or off at a particular time. And the difference between a good strategy and a bad strategy can be $100,000 or more. And I'll show you some case studies where how and when somebody is claimed and how they've put these rules together made that much of a difference. So I'm going to spend the rest of my time talking about strategies for singles, married couples, divorcees, and widows. And even if you're not if you're not married right now, you may remarry. So those will be important pieces of information for you. Or if you're currently married, hang with us as we talk about divorcees, because you could find yourself in a situation where that information would be important. But let's start with singles. A key lesson for singles, and admittedly, the rules around single benefits aren't as complicated as married couples, divorcees, and widows, but there are some general rules of thumb that you need to keep in mind. First of all, if a single individual lives to about age 80, it really doesn't matter when you claim your benefits if you're only looking at the cumulative lifetime benefits. And I'll show you a table in a moment that brings that to life. But basically, if you live to about 80, your cumulative lifetime payout is going to be about the same whether you start at 62 or 70. Or any age in between. That doesn't mean you should start at 62, and I'll talk about why in just a moment, but the cumulative lifetime benefit's about the same. If you're single and you think you will live well beyond average life expectancy, you should delay the start of your benefits so that you can get the most in cumulative lifetime benefits. But if your primary concern is monthly income, take note that age 70 benefit is 75% bigger than your age 62 benefit. And you may be saying, Robin, I'm ready to quit work at 62 and I need a little bit of income. Think beyond this moment. Think about the marshmallow. Later in your life, when your savings may be running low, you will be glad that you delayed your Social Security so that you can have the biggest benefit possible. Now, let's take a look at the chart I said I'd show you about cumulative lifetime benefits. Down the left-hand column, you can see the benefit start ages of 62 to 70, and across the columns are various mortality ages, dies at 70, dies at 75, dies at 80. What I want you to take a look at is that column dies at 80. You'll remember that first rule of thumb is if a single lives to about age 80, it really doesn't matter cumulatively, from a cumulative benefit perspective. When you claim, well, you can see all of the totals, the cumulative benefit totals in that column are reasonably close to the same. There isn't, mathematically over the course of an entire retirement, there's not that much difference between $324,000 and $336,000. So that's rule number one. The rule number two is looking at those cumulative benefits the longer you live or think you might live. I've circled in blue the highest cumulative benefit at each of those starting ages and death ages. And you can see the longer you live and the longer you wait to start your benefits, the higher your cumulative benefit will be. And you might say, why are cumulative benefits so important? Well, the more you get cumulatively, the less you have to depend on savings that may be depleting later in your life. So you're hedging against longevity risk, the risk that you run out of money late in life. Now let's take a look at Joe, and I want to show you the difference between an age 62 and an age 70 claim. Joe has a $2,000 full retirement benefit, and if he claims at 62, he's going to get $1,500 a month. Remember, it's reduced by 25%. If he waits till age 70, he gets $2,640 a month. He may love having that income early, but the longer Joe lives, the more important that $2,640 becomes. And if he lives to age 85, the difference is about $61,000 cumulatively. But note that difference in payments. It's $1,140 different every month for the rest of his life. So he might have wanted the one marshmallow, but if he'll just wait and get the two marshmallows, he will be, I think, much happier later in life when he has more money to support health care and other needs that he may have, particularly if his savings are running low. Now, let's spend a few moments talking about married couples. Admittedly, the benefits are more complex than they are for singles because there are so many combinations of your own retirement benefit and spousal benefits and, of course, widow and widower benefits that can matter. I'm still surprised at the number of people who call us and they're really not aware of spousal benefits, or they don't understand, as I mentioned early in the broadcast, that someone can collect a spousal benefit even if they've never worked outside the home. So spousal benefits, of course, as I said earlier, are paid to an eligible spouse of a worker. It's up to 50% of that worker's primary insurance amount, also called the full retirement benefit. Those are interchangeable terms. It can be claimed if the worker has started benefits already. Used to, the rules allowed you to do something called file and suspend, where the worker could file for benefits but stop them, and that allowed a spouse to claim that spousal benefit. That rule was changed in 2015, so most people now have to claim under the new rules, meaning that you can only get a spousal benefit if the worker's receiving his or her benefit. Spousal benefits are reduced for claiming early. I mentioned that in the broadcast a few minutes ago. A claim at 62 reduces the benefit by 30%. Here's an example. If your spousal benefit at age 66, if that's your full retirement age, is $1,200, if you started at 62, it's $840. So that's a huge difference. And as I mentioned earlier, a smart claiming strategy combines rules around ages. It also looks at your benefit amounts and your estimated life expectancies. So when we start putting together your age and a spouse's age and your benefit amount and a spouse's benefit amount and your life expectancy and a spouse's life expectancy, the iterations or the possibilities for claiming benefits is huge. There are about 10,000 different ways to put those pieces together. And if you miss one single rule, you could be missing out on a lot of money and benefits. So let me introduce you to Joe and Mary. Both Joe and Mary are 64 today, and their example will show you why it matters how you put all this stuff together. Both of them have a full retirement age of 66, and they're planning at 66 for Joe to claim his $2,000 a month retirement benefit. Mary's going to claim her $1,200 a month benefit. Joe thinks he'll live to about age 80. Mary thinks she'll live to 90. And if they do live to those precise ages, they'll get about $777,000 in lifetime cumulative benefits. You may be sitting on the phone thinking, hey, that's pretty good. I kind of like the sound of that. Well, let's talk about how they could use the rules a little bit differently and get more money. The best strategy for Joe and Mary will get them $86,400 more in benefits. And it looks like this. Mary's going to go ahead and start her own retirement benefit at 66, just like she had planned to do. But Joe is eligible to collect just a spousal benefit. He falls in a specific set of rules that'll let him collect a spousal benefit on her earnings record for a few years. And when he's 70, he's going to start his own benefit that is substantially larger. It gets those delayed retirement credits, and it's going to give him $86,000 more. But let me show you one more slide with Joe and Mary that, for me, means even more. At our firm, our CEO talks about us being compare junkies. We want to show you your options and let you make the best decision about what claiming strategy makes sense for you. So what I have on the screen, another eye chart for you, is the difference between the recommended or primary strategy for Joe and Mary that I just showed you versus what if they just quit work and claim their benefits today. The difference, the cumulative lifetime difference between those is almost $116,000. Sure, for the next couple of years, Joe and Mary are going to have some substantial Social Security income, but if they wait, it's worth $116,000 for them. And for me, as a woman, a married woman, I think the survivor benefit difference is critical to point out. And I mentioned earlier in the broadcast that we can sure tell in our firm when one spouse truly cares about the other, when they really focus on how to get the most in survivor benefits for that surviving spouse. Our primary or recommended strategy means that Mary, assuming Joe dies first, Mary's going to get $862 more every month for the rest of her life. And looking forward, if their assets, their savings start to run out, she can depend on that more money. He can have confidence that he helped get her the most possible as a survivor benefit. So let's move on and talk about divorce benefits. I introduced you at the beginning of the broadcast to Debbie, who wasn't even aware that it mattered. Divorcees can be eligible for that divorced spouse or surviving divorced spouse benefit. I mentioned that you have to have been married at least 10 years, and it doesn't have to be consecutive years. They can be cumulative years as long as it's to the same spouse. It's not terribly uncommon for spouses to divorce and remarry later. So as long as it's to the same spouse and it's a cumulative 10 years, it counts. It can't be one day less than 10 years, though. The ex-spouse must be at least age 62 if the divorce has been final for 2 years or more. If the divorce hasn't been final for 2 years, then that ex-spouse must be receiving his or her benefits. So that's kind of an interesting scenario there. It has to have been final for 2 years, and if it hasn't, then that ex-spouse must be receiving their benefits. The ex-spouse can get the same amount as the spouse. Remember, it's up to 50% of the worker's benefit. That's the same that a current spouse would get. And if you remarry, please keep this in mind. If you're divorced and getting a divorced spouse benefit, and if you remarry, you forfeit the divorced spouse benefit. And this catches a lot of our clients by surprise, you have to wait 1 year to start a spousal benefit on your new spouse's record. So if you find yourself in this situation where you're getting that divorced spouse benefit and you remarry, be sure you are aware and that your new spouse or spouse-to-be is aware. You're going to forfeit the divorced spouse benefit, and you have to wait a year to start the new spousal benefit. And, of course, I mentioned this earlier, at the death of an ex-spouse, the surviving divorced spouse may be eligible to get the benefit that the ex was receiving at the time of death. So, when should a divorcee claim benefits? You have to weigh your own retirement benefit against the divorced spouse benefit. And I have an example of Cindy up here, and I think this is a very interesting example. Her own retirement benefit is $1,300, and the divorced spouse benefit she would qualify for is also $1,300. Strategy A, column A, is for her to file for the divorced spouse benefit when she reaches her full retirement age, and then switch to her own benefit. Remember, it's grown those delayed retirement credits. She'll switch at age 70. Strategy B is just to start her own benefit at full retirement age. Look at the difference. The cumulative difference in these two strategies is almost $100,000. That divorced spouse benefit is worth $100,000 to her. It would be more if her ex-spouse passes away before she does, and she could get the higher surviving divorced spouse benefit. So keep in mind that it's important to know the rules around divorced spouse benefits, and if you are a divorcee, to figure out your best strategy for claiming benefits. Now, when are you entitled to a surviving divorced spouse benefit? Well, age 60 or over is when you can qualify for that, unless you're disabled, and then you can qualify as early as age 50. You can't be receiving a benefit that is greater than what that surviving divorced spouse benefit would be. So if your own benefit that you're already getting is higher than what you would get, you're not eligible. Again, you have to be married or have been married at least 10 years before that divorce became final. And you have to be currently unmarried or have the marriage disregarded. And this is the only place in the Social Security rules where this marriage being disregarded really comes into play. If you are a surviving divorced spouse and you remarry after the age of 60, you can have that marriage disregarded, or it doesn't matter, and you can continue to collect the surviving divorced spouse benefit. It does not apply to the regular divorced spouse benefit, only the surviving divorced spouse benefit. And we've had a number of clients who've called in and visited with us prior to remarrying who are in this situation, and we always coach them to wait till 60 or after to remarry so that they don't give up that divorce or surviving divorce spouse benefit. Now, my last group is widows. I'll tell you that, as I mentioned earlier, it's used interchangeably with survivor benefits, but the Social Security Administration does separate those. And I believe that these are the most confusing of all benefits classes. There are so many rules that are out there to help widows and widowers that aren't available to the other benefit types. Remember, Social Security was initially created to help widows and orphans, and I think a lot of those legacy rules still exist and really benefit widows and widowers, but it makes the calculations very complicated. To get a widow or widower benefit, you have to be 60 or over, again, 50 if you're disabled. You cannot remarry before age 60. Again, very much like the surviving divorced spouse benefit, you can't already be receiving a retirement benefit that's equal to or larger than what you would get as a widow or widower. The worker has to have died fully insured, meaning they had enough quarters of work and they were at least age 62. And I mentioned earlier you have to have been married at least 9 months before the worker died. You didn't have to live with them. So let's say someone was in a nursing home or you were separated. You can still qualify for that widow or widower benefit. And it's possible, I'm going to show you an example here in just a second, it's possible to start a widow's benefit while your own retirement benefit grows those delayed retirement credits, and you can switch later. So take a look at Marian on the screen. Marian is 63. She has a full retirement benefit of $1,879, and her husband George passed away a few years ago. His full retirement benefit was $2,489. Marian can claim her reduced widow benefit right now. So she's 63. She hasn't reached her full retirement age yet, but she can go ahead if she needs income and start that reduced widow's benefit. It would be about $2,115. Then when she gets to be age 70, she can switch to her own benefit of $2,480. She's going to get a bump of $365 more a month for the rest of her life. Now, keep in mind the Social Security Administration won't tell Marian that she can switch later to get more money. If she goes to the Social Security Administration, they're going to encourage her to file for her widow's benefit as soon as she can because it's bigger than her own retirement benefit would be at that time. But they'll never tell her, hey, when you're 70, come back in and switch to this higher benefit. It's on Marian to remember to do that. But doing so can get her another $365 a month for the rest of her life. So I know we've walked through a lot of information around single, married, widowed, divorced, but I want to leave you today with some key takeaways. Knowing the rules that apply to you matters. Remember Debbie back at the beginning. She didn't know that being married, divorced, and a surviving divorced spouse all could be combined to get her more money and benefits. Missing a rule can cost you and your family tens of thousands or more in benefits. It's not a one size fits all or even a one size fits most scenario. Your household factors won't be the same as your neighbors or your cousins or even your sisters. So, no one canned way of doing it works for everybody. You need to have your specific numbers to make sure you get the most in benefits. I've said it over and over today. Not having a smart strategy can cost you a lot of money and benefits, and I think that's obvious from the case studies we've walked through. The rules are complicated. It's impossible for you to go out and learn all of the rules and create a strategy that uses all of them to your advantage. It would take you months and months and months and probably years to do that. I consider myself to be a Social Security expert, yet I miss rules on a regular basis that could cost someone money, and that's why software plays such an important part in this. As I mentioned, there are as many as 10,000 combinations of ways for married couples to claim. There are so many combinations that can help you get more, and you need to understand what those combinations are and all of the factors that go into getting you the most. Social Security Administration agents can't give you advice. They can't discuss strategy. Many times, if you call the same office or even different offices and ask the same question in exactly the same words, you're going to get different answers. I think they're working really hard. They're doing the best they can, but they're overwhelmed with the 10,000 baby boomers who are retiring and claiming benefits every day. So they can't help you, and you need expert advice. We make it very simple for you to know your best strategy so that you can get the most in benefits. I want to share with you, as we close out the presentation, an offer that we have for you at Social Security Solutions. As I mentioned earlier, we do have software that makes all of this very simple for you. It works if you're single, married, widowed, or divorced, and it works with many other household types as well. We've coded all of the complicated rules into our software, and what you get back is an educational, personalized report that will tell you exactly how and when to file for your benefits to get the most possible. We have very affordable options. We have comprehensive options, but you need to know your numbers, and you need to understand the strategies that are available to you so that you can compare trade-offs from one strategy to another. We do have a special discount code for everyone who is on the broadcast. You can log into our software at www.socialsecuritysolutions.com, and you can use the code SAVVY for a 10% discount on any of our services. You can choose to get just a report where we give you the answer. You can choose our interactive software, or you can choose a session with an expert. But we want you to take advantage of this opportunity, and so we're offering a 10% discount on any of our services. I appreciate your attention and hanging with me through all of this detailed information. And if I could leave you with one thing, it would be, think about the marshmallows. Think about delaying the gratification, because later in your life, when your savings may be running out and your health may be declining, you're going to need the extra income that Social Security can provide if you've used a smart strategy. Be sure you run your numbers and know what's yours. Get all that's coming to you. Maggie, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Great. Thanks, Robin. There is a lot of really helpful information in there. And I just want to remind everyone, we'll open it up for Q&A now. So if you have a question, you can use the chat box, or you can email info@savvyladies.org. And we did have some questions come in during your presentation, Robin. So the first one here is, my husband's Social Security benefit will be more than double my Social Security benefit, but he is 4 years younger than me. He will claim full benefits when he is 66 years, 10 months. I would like to claim benefits at age 62 and then file for a larger benefit when he claims his benefits. Is this allowed?
What a great question, and kudos to whoever asked the question because you've been doing your research. Very proud of you for doing that. And depending on your dates of birth, it may be allowed. Again, the big rule change back in 2015 shook things up a bit. So without having all of your detailed information, it's impossible to say, yes, it's allowed for you, or no, it won't be allowed for you. It's back to that answer of it depends. So, we'd love to help you with that.
Okay, thanks. Next question is, my mother is a retired teacher, a widow, and is currently receiving Social Security benefits. My father worked too. Is she eligible for a portion of his Social Security benefits too?
Well, okay, so that's another great it depends question. I see that your mother, or I heard in the question that your mother is a retired teacher. Many states, I believe it's 13 states, use a system where teachers and other public employees don't pay into Social Security. If that is the case, then your mother may be impacted by a law called the government pension offset, where the offset or the reduction in that spousal benefit or survivor benefit is so big that she ultimately would not get any benefit. However, she is eligible for a spousal benefit on his work record just because she is his spouse. Again, it depends on whether or not she had what's called a non-covered pension, whether or not she paid into Social Security, and how much her pension would be. Again, our software works for those particular situations, and we can help you figure out those numbers. And if she's eligible for a benefit, she can certainly claim it.
Okay, thank you. Another question we have is, my husband is on Social Security disability income permanently. I am over 62, but under full retirement age. Am I eligible for any of Social Security benefits based on my husband's disability? I'm not working, but have not filed for Social Security retirement benefits.
You are not eligible for spousal benefits on his disability benefit. However, when he reaches full retirement age, his disability benefit will automatically convert to a retirement benefit, and at that time, you would be eligible for a spousal benefit based on that newly converted benefit amount.
All right, thank you. Another question is, I'm 67 years old and still working. If I started collecting Social Security, would it affect my income from my job? How much can I collect?
Okay, you are lucky. Here's the bonus of the day. Because you are already past your full retirement age, the earnings test will not reduce your benefit. So you can earn as much in wages because you're past your full retirement age as you can possibly earn. If you can earn $1 million, that would be great. The earnings test does not apply after you reach full retirement age, and your benefits will not be reduced.
Okay. Do you have time for one more question, Robin?
I do.
Okay, it's, if a man passes away and he is divorced and has been for about 16 years, who can receive his Social Security benefits?
Great question. If he is divorced, as long his uh, former spouse can receive a surviving divorced spouse benefit as long as they were married at least 10 years. And if he has multiple, or had, I should say, had multiple spouses and was married to each one of those for at least 10 years, each one of those can collect the surviving divorced spouse benefit on his record. You know, we live in an age now where people are in serial marriages, so it is not uncommon for there to be one or two ex-spouses collecting a benefit and a current spouse collecting a benefit. So multiple people can be eligible in that situation.
Okay. Robin, do you have time for another question that just came in?
Sure.
Okay, it's if a spouse dies over 60 and may not have collected Social Security benefits at time of death, will the surviving spouse receive the benefit? The surviving spouse, who was a lawyer, made more money than the deceased spouse, who was a teacher.
Yeah, if the spouse died, was over 60 and had not started collecting benefits, you bet the spouse will be eligible for a survivor or widow or a widow's benefit in this particular case. And how much that person will get depends on what that full retirement benefit was for the deceased, and it depends on when the surviving spouse claims the benefit, at what age. But yes, you would absolutely qualify.
All right. Well, those are all the questions we have for now. So I want to thank you, Robin, for a really great presentation. Thanks for explaining what can be a very complicated topic. And I want to thank everyone who joined us today and asked some really insightful questions. Thanks again so much, Robin.
You're welcome. My pleasure.